Elite Facts presents
7 most difficult video games of the modern era. So you may remember a while back that we presented a list about the most difficult games ever created. A lot of the games on the list were either NES or SNES classics, with only a few games being from more recent consoles. So this list is dedicated to some of the most rage-inducing games from both 7th and 8th generation consoles. Here's our 7 most difficult games of the modern era. Enjoy!
7.
XCOM 2. So the XCOM series of games are normally quite difficult, what with it being one of the biggest strategy combat games on the market. However, XCOM 2 takes it to a whole other level. With terrifying aliens and puzzling encounters, you'll need to really plan every movement if you want to succeed. The enemy AI has been upgraded drastically, making it more difficult when planning out your next attack. Oh, and how could we forget to mention that if you lose a team member, they're gone forever. All we're going to say is this: don't name them after your friends and family. It's only going to end badly for them. Trust us.
6.
Hotline Miami 2, wrong number. So Hotline Miami 1 was awesome. Let's just go ahead and say it was a welcome change to the top-down shooter genre with its neon-lit, blood-soaked graphics and non-stop action accompanied with some of the most addictive music you can imagine. Well, Hotline Miami 2, wrong number, takes the mechanics, graphics, and music from the original game and injects it with steroids. This game is completely insane. Continuing where the original left off in terms of difficulty, and thereby assuming that going into HM2 you're well versed in the ways of combining melee weapons with firearms to massacre a small town's worth of enemies, there's no let-up whatsoever once you get going. You'll need to literally pick up and play, goading charging AI characters raining down fire with on-the-fly tactics and improvisation. You can grab all guns dropped, throw melee weapons to knock down foes, grab human shields to soak up one shot. It's the dynamic rollout of experimentation and your own intuition that keeps Hotline Miami so imminently replayable across a sizable 15-plus hour runtime.
5.
Don't Starve. On the surface, this game looks cute. I mean, the art style is innocent and some of the enemy designs can be adorable. But please, for the love of God, don't let that fool you. Don't Starve is a game that, from its first minute, is killing you, and the only way to stave off death is to put yourself in danger. Developer Clay has carefully delivered to us a fantastic survival simulator in which food, shelter, and sanity are vital for your survival. And let's be perfectly honest, you're as likely to die from lack of one of the previously mentioned requirements for survival than you are from getting eaten by the wildlife. So you must scour the procedurally generated wilderness, scavenging food to eat and materials to craft with, all the while growing your tech tree until you approach some kind of Robinson Crusoe-esque Zen moment where, by golly, you've built yourself a self-sustaining utopia. The goal is to stay alive for as long as possible. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, to put it very bluntly, no. Nothing is ever that simple in this game. Once you're dead, you're dead. Each game has only one save, so if you do starve, and you will, believe us, there are no reloads, only restarts. 4. The Evil Within. It's quite fitting to have this on the list, what with the sequel being announced this past E3 at the Bethesda conference. The Evil Within is a survival horror video game released back in 2014 for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PC, and was directed by the creator of the Resident Evil series, Shinji Mikami. This game, well, it can be manageable on a lower difficulty, but if you're going into this game from the normal difficulty and anything higher than that, you're going to be in for a tough time. The Evil Within is just ruthless, as it not only pits you against some of the toughest enemies in video games, like seriously, one headshot isn't enough to put common enemies down. Makes you completely vulnerable at the start of the game as you have low health to start out with and can only carry a limited amount of ammo, and the game is incredibly stingy when it comes to giving you resources. What's that? You're out of ammo? Well, nothing we can do. Good luck fighting this big chainsaw guy in such a close quarters area. It might sound like we're completely slagging this game off, however, we think this is exactly what a survival horror game should be. A really tricky experience with difficult enemies and serious item management. The Evil Within is absolutely perfect when it comes to that. Although stealth segments need some work and the story can be a bit disjointed, but still, it's a fantastic challenge that we highly recommend to anyone out there.
3.
Super Meat Boy. Considering the fact that you're playing a squishy piece of raw meat, you'll probably get the first impression that this game is going to be ruthless. However, even though you're playing a fairly weak hero, Super Meat Boy is a surprisingly fresh take on the platforming genre. There's no real gimmick to the gameplay here, so you'll spend all your time running and jumping to get from point A to point B. The only problem is that deadly obstacles are everywhere. Depending on what level you're in, these may come in the form of saw blades, enemies, or piles of salt, all of which can kill you in a single hit. On the surface, this may seem frustrating, and to an extent it is. However, although the cards are stacked against the player, it is surprisingly fair, all in thanks to the game's brilliant design. Meat Boy has the perfect amount of inertia, making the controls incredibly tight. When you die, and trust us, you will die a lot, you respawn instantly at the beginning of the level, ready to try again. There's very little punishment for your failure, which makes you always want to give the tough parts another shot.
2.
Alien Isolation. Alien Isolation is an absolute gem as far as survival horror video games go. After coming off of the dreadful release that is Aliens Colonial Marines, a change in genre from all-out action to survival horror was a refreshing change, as we haven't really had an Alien game quite like this in the past, although the Alien trilogy does come fairly close. Although this game was a fantastic experience to longtime fans of the film franchise, it's also a frustrating one. So the Working Joe segments are creepy as is, but you can just blast through those segments as if you're playing a standard survival horror game like Resident Evil or the previously mentioned Evil Within. In fact, a lot of the game plays out like the previously mentioned titles, what with the limited ammunition and whatnot, so that alone is pretty difficult to keep an eye on. However, when you get to the xenomorph portions of the game, things get knocked into fifth gear. The xenomorph is essentially unkillable. No matter what you do, nothing is going to kill this thing. So instead, you have to sneak around it and pray to God you don't get caught, or you don't make a sound, thus getting its attention. So it's stealth-based. Nothing special, right? Wrong. The AI of the xenomorph is scarily intelligent, meaning that the smallest of mistakes can lead to your death. The worst part of all, the save feature. In order to save your progress, you must go to one of the designated save points and interact with the panel on the wall. Once interacting with it, it will then take a good few seconds for your save to register. If you're incredibly unlucky, which most of us have been in the past when playing this game, the xenomorph can actually interrupt your save by instantly killing you, thus sending you back to where you last saved. This game is absolutely ruthless.
1.
Dark Souls 3. Let's just say that when you complete a Dark Souls, Demon Souls game, you'll essentially turn into Jesse Ventura from Predator. It'll make you a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus, like him. All jokes aside, From Software has sort of made a name for themselves over the last 8 years, even though they've been around since 1986 and have released great games such as Armored Core and the Echo Knight franchise. But their main claim to fame has to come from the Souls series, which started way back in 2009 with their PlayStation 3 exclusive Demon Souls. Now, if you're yet to experience their perfected mechanical series of games like Demons or Dark Souls and Bloodborne, odds are they'll all have you screaming at your television within the first 10 minutes of playing. Dark Souls 3 is no different in this regard, as a first boss that mutates into a screen-filled mass of area effect attacks and devastating slams is quickly followed up by a more unassuming samurai character that might as well be a boss himself. The opening gauntlet of this fourth Souls title is no less unforgiving than the previous two, but thanks to a perfect mix of refined controls and signature difficulty spikes, Remains is the perfect entry point for fans and newcomers alike. All we can really say is this: good luck. And that's our list. Did we leave any games out? Let us know your most rage-filled gaming experience in the comments section below, and thanks for watching.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more Elite Facts.